And after 2002, what happened?
So, 2001 December, if you remember, 2002 was a bloodbath on Wall Street. I don't know how many of you know that, but
Yeah.
$1 trillion was lost on because of the tech bust. It was called the tech bust of Wall Street.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
because if you remember, it was the first generation of internet companies like webvan.com
Dot
and
com.
laundry.com.
Dot com.
Yeah, all the dot com bust. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So at that time, a lot of companies that were overvalued, over leveraged, who had picked up a lot of debt and the business models were not proven, these kind of companies went down the wire
Yeah.
and they lost all the money. So there was mass unemployment. The tech markets were bust. I mean, it was all, it was fire everywhere, and millions of people lost jobs, especially tech guys. And
Yeah.
um, Wall Street was down. In fact, tech IPOs were stopped officially for the next 6 months. So it was that
I
bad.
know.
And
98
yeah,
to
so
2000, it was all uphill. And after that, in 2002, everything went so sharply down. Everyone thought like it is over, all over for internet, basically.
exactly right. That is exactly right. That was called, we were in the eye of that hurricane, believe it or not. And
Hmm.
it was very bad. So the company that acquired us actually never went public for the next 2 years.
Oh,
So it was a kind of a bad, it was a bad, nightmare for all of us. But anyway, I mean, this is a part of business. We learn from it. Now, what happened as a result was a lot of these companies shut down, startups, and many of the Indian guys started coming back to India from the US. They were on site and they started coming back to India. And as a part of that, I noticed, friend's company, a friend of mine from IIT Kharagpur, he was running a company called Intellinet, which was also building something similar in the core of the wireless network. And his company was about to shut down. So I made him an offer. I said, "Why don't I learn? Why don't I help you move the team, the engineering operation to India and run it from Bangalore? Because the cost arbitrage, the prices are lower, salaries are lower, and so on,
hmm.
and we might get talent."
Outsourcing, basically.
And I moved that team to Bangalore, and we recreated the new operation in Bangalore. And that company became profitable again. Within 2 years, we hit, I think, 1.5 million. And then I opened the operations in Hong Kong. We opened new account, Bharti Airtel, Ericsson, India, Spice Telecom. All these guys, we opened those accounts and started setting up the software there. So 2005, that company was healthy again, and their investors forced me to move back to the US. I was back in
Okay.
Bangalore, but they wanted me to move back to US. And but then I had already tasted this whole thing, so I said no, I don't think so. I think India is buzzing right now. I'm going to stay back. So that's how I stayed back. And at that time, I saw all these new startups in India. Paytm, Vijay Shekhar Sharma's 197 started that time in Gurgaon. There's a lot
Hmm.
of companies that are starting up. And that time, I started my own independent consulting company called Tonse Telecom in Bangalore. That is when I started
Hmm.
Tonse. Tonse is actually my hometown. That's also my middle name. If you know, Sridhar by Tonse
Yeah.
is the town.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I called it. I didn't know what else to call it, so I called it Tonse Telecom. It kind of was cool. And so we became, over the next 10 years, we became pretty much the go-to place for anything telecom in India and South Asia. Because what happened was, if you notice that the Bharti Airtel, Spice Telecom, all these networks started growing in India, and the cellular
Hmm.
revolution had already begun. So
Yes.
from 2000 to the next 20 years, so 15 years or so, India went from 10, 20 million to 1 billion smartphone, 1 billion cellular users, as you know.
Yes.
And all these networks started becoming bigger. And when these networks grow, investors come in. If you remember, there's Tata AT&T was there, US West was there, JTM, JT
Yeah.
Mobile was there. There were 14 operators in India. All these
Yeah.
guys,
Yeah.
right? So they need capital. So the large investors, private equity firms, these guys come from abroad and want to come and invest money. And when they want to come in and put money, they need somebody on the ground who will validate the business plan. They want somebody to check and say, a third party that authenticates the data. So we were that company. So we were pretty much From
Okay.
Silicon Valley Bank to TCW, Trust Company of the West, to Sequoia, to I think we worked with more than 30 or 40 VCs, PE firms,
Mm-hmm.
and help validate the data, set up strategies for the portfolio, either on the buy side or the sell side. So, over the next 15 years, we've I think personally delivered about 200 consulting projects, mostly telecom,
Okay.
both from
Okay.
software as well as hardware perspective, or the operators, and then WiMAX. So all of that, we did a lot of work in that area, and that gave me the confidence that a third party, um, authentic, credible consulting opportunity does exist even in emerging markets. So that's how this company was set up.
Great. Great. And now, what's the roadmap further ahead? Like, or are you thinking of having a retired life or something like that? What's the plan going forward?
No, I think retirement is a bad word. I don't believe in that. I think
Okay.
retirement is a concept of a regimented employment scheme. When you are a part of that, I think retirement is valid because the employer or the government also wants to make sure that other people get the opportunity to work. But for
Yeah.
people, otherwise, if you're looking to serve, be it a industry sector or a market or an entrepreneurial neighborhood or a larger community, I think it's our job to serve as long as we can, no matter what that segment is.
Hmm.
So, isn't it? So, basically, let me give you a small connecting piece that happened after
Hmm.
Geo came in, and we had crossed 1 billion users in India. The and 4G had happened, it stabilized, and I'm now talking about between 2016 to 2020 or so. In that period, there
Hmm.
was not much
Hmm.
telecom activity. In terms of new investments,
Hmm.
there was none. In fact, a lot of the
Hmm.
tier two and tier three players consolidated. If you remember, there's no Spice Telecom now. All of them got merged into larger
Yeah.
players, which
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
very
They went
right.
bust or like they were like merged.
Exactly. So, which is a very typical consolidation phase of the industry where the smaller players get merged into larger players because the economies of the operation have reached a point where small players find it impossible to survive. So, their
Yeah.
only bet merge into larger entities. That's what has happened. So, we've seen that has happened. So, at that point, I noticed that investor activity was low, profitability was a challenge, and there were even now, Vodafone India is about to die. If frankly, nobody will say it to you, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
losing life every day. So we know that we have reached a point where we have BSNL, we have Airtel, and we have Jio, and that's how it will
Zero.
be. There's no room for somehow the government will liquidate their holding, and VI will merge or demerge into a smaller piece. That's what will happen. So at that
Yeah.
point, we know there's not going to be much activity. So at that point, I slowly started moving out of telecoms. And what happened was actually my team got acquired by one of our customers. We had a customer from France, a company called Data Access. They were a customer of ours. They were using our data and we were providing services to them. And they actually made an offer, and we merged into them. And I ran that combined entity for the next year and a half, and I moved out after that. But being an entrepreneur once is always an entrepreneur. So there's this bug. So we created a piece of hardware, and we worked with someone, built the software to create a new product for the children's education industry. So there, what we did
Okay.
was we would supply a set of books, specially coded digital books, along with an optical sensor, which converts
Hmm.
text to audio. So this
Okay.
works for we built support for 10 Indian languages, working very well. Our biggest customer was UNICEF, and UNICEF picked up like several thousands of kids. So it worked very well for us first 3 years. But then
Hmm.
unfortunately we hit the we hit the COVID wave because COVID,
COVID.
shut all the private schools and everything. Right, there was no schools for 2 years. So that
Mm-hmm.
hit us badly, and we had to pull out of that. So in the meantime, I decided to
So
continue
is
the
this
consulting.
program shelved or is it like you are going to revive it? What's the plan?
No, if it was a pure software thing, I think I would have revived it. But because it was hardware associated, it becomes difficult because hardware has an ongoing maintenance, upgrade, protect, storage, demurrage, these kinds of costs. Chipset vendors are not willing to work with you unless you pick up every quarter. So China, we also ended up with India-China type of political issues, right? So we slowly felt that it was not going to be worth it. Plus, it was a B2C kind of a product. In a B2C product,
Okay.
we need large capital to and feet on the street to cover the schools. It was very difficult for us. So I realized that it was not going to work very well. So we bit the bullet and slowly shut down the operation. So business is over now. I've closed it. It's no longer. It's one of. It's over. That's pretty much over. So now what I'm
So
doing, coming back to your question, um, I've now decided to build some digital courses, which I'm in the process of, and I'm also consulting with smart entrepreneurs. I help them because I noticed that they're all making the same mistakes we did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe even bigger mistakes than us. So I feel that it's a time for me to give back, and I help them, you know, make smarter decisions, tell them what are the things they should do, advise them, help them, take them to an investor, help raise capital, maybe exit, maybe do M&As. So I do these
all in
things now.
telecom domain only. All in telecom domain only.
Um, Telecom, I have some natural advantages because of my legacy of being there for so long, but not limited to telecom. I work with a team of people. We have two people from Deloitte, ex-Deloitte, who are international and national corporate tax experts. I have two guys from Accenture, one person from Accenture, one from Bank of America and Morgan Stanley, who do the fintech, the financial analysis, valuation, cash flow and those kinds of things. I do the market and the tech piece and so on. So we have a small team which are loosely connected. We come together on a project on demand and deliver the goods and then exit and then loosen up again and then come together. So that's the model I'm currently doing, and let's see how it goes. That is one piece of what I do. That's the height. That's the one to
I
one.
think you are at the right place at the right time, because now the digital is the next big thing. Just like you caught the telecom wave and like you made use of the telecom revolution, next revolution is probably going to be digital, and you
That's
are like
exact.
just catching it at the right time.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm thinking. Also, don't forget AI, right? With AI and digital coming together, a new wave of innovation, a new wave of investments in deep tech, and these things are I'm beginning to see. So I think we'll be able to create an impact, or at least help in a meaningful way. So that's what I'm trying to do.